This comedy rivalry has officially turned ugly after Kevin Hart attempted to silence Katt Williams. After their viral on-stage ceasefire, fans believed the beef was over, but the pressure is only increasing behind the scenes. Strong Hollywood figures are reportedly putting an extra effort to force Katt out of the game entirely. Stay tuned, because I'll discuss how Kevin's setup at a big comedy club might have been intended to make Katt seem bad. Kevin Hart was at the heart of the Kevin Hart Roast on May 10, 2026, at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles. The audience was jam-packed for the live music event, which was a part of Netflix's Humor Festival. Shane Gillis was hosting the star-studded event, which featured visits by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Tom Brady, Cheryl Underwood, Tiana Taylor, Chelsea Handler, and Regina Hall. The lineup was full of big hitters who had come to dissect Kevin Hart piece by piece, joke by joke. However, there was one name that nobody anticipated seeing on that platform. The audience was taken aback when actress Regina Hall brought out Katt Williams. At that point, the building's entire energy changed. The actor from Friday After Next walked onto the stage wearing a long black leather cape that resembled a trench and a black helmet. For those who haven't noticed, Katt Williams and Kevin Hart are not pals. It has been a long time since they were pals. Accusations of stolen roles, industry politics, and intellectual theft have fueled the comedy great rivalry for over 20 years. It was therefore like dropping a lit match into a room full of petrol when Katt Williams took the stage to mock the man he has referred to as a puppet, an industry plant, and everything in between. Williams wasted no time. The tone of the entire evening was established by his opening remarks. "It surprises me that they invited me. That's how little star power you have. They had to start inviting your enemies," Katt joked after being presented. Then he exerted more force. He turned to face the crowd and claimed that after telling them he detested Hart, they still encouraged him to attend. This was not lighthearted chat between two friends who shared the joke. It was obvious that it was more than a jest. These individuals have a history of not getting along. This was years, even decades, of genuine annoyance, genuine complaints, and genuine hostility uncorked for the world to witness on live television. From then on, the weight just increased. "This is going to be my best acting tonight as I pretend like you are a goat," Williams said, leaning into his Emmy victory. Because it wasn't merely a joke, that line alone was terrible. It was a declaration of a thesis. Williams was expressing to the audience and the millions of viewers at home that he didn't think Kevin Hart was the greatest of all time. At Hart's own event on Hart's own network, he was making this statement in front of Hart's face. The line that went viral then appeared. "For those of you just joining us, Kevin and I have a beef, and I'll tell you why. In private, this mother stole everything from me. Before he saw my act, he was a 6-foot man," Williams remarked. The audience burst out laughing, but there was a far darker undertone. Because Katt Williams wasn't only making jokes. With Kevin Hart seated in front of millions of live viewers, he was making the same claims he has been making for more than 10 years on the largest stage available. You had to go back to the beginning to see how these two comedians wound up at each other's throats in the first place in order to comprehend why that moment held the weight it did. You must comprehend what Katt Williams stood for in black comedy prior to Kevin Hart's arrival in order to comprehend this feud. Katt Williams has a longer history. He was regarded as the first high-energy, short black man who made large, musical expressions and overacted on stage. He was into that. He became well known for his unvarnished stand-up. It's pimp and pimping in his specials, The Pimp Chronicles. In the black humor scene, the Katt apocalypse was very popular. Arenas were sold out by him. Because they believed he was one of the few comedians who refused to sell out, he had a cult following that was devoted to him. When Kevin Hart emerged, the parallels were there right away. They both had a lot of energy and were short, yet their trajectories could not have been more dissimilar. Kevin became quite well known by accepting every part that Katt refused. And that's where the conflict began. In 2014, a casual comment about Shaquille O'Neal sparked the rivalry. 11 years of apologies, accusations, and at least one dare that no one collected ensued. When Katt began making passive-aggressive remarks and jokes about comedians entering the Hollywood machine in 2014, Kevin's and Katt's conflict initially came to light. Kevin's film career started to take off at this time, and he starred in films including Ride Along, About Last Night, Think Like a Man 2, and Top 5. Williams had a conversation with TMZ Sports. Additionally, Williams called Shaquille O'Neal a bum and declared, "Get out of here, you bum, before I take the rest of your girls like you took Kevin Hart from me," while discussing comedy and O'Neal. That one sentence, throwaway as it may have seemed, revealed a deep-seated belief that Williams held. He thought Kevin Hart had been snatched from him. That Hart's ascent occurred at Williams' expense rather than naturally. Later that year, Katt claimed to have contributed to Kevin's development as a comic. He began making remarks implying that everything about Hart's persona, including his passionate, explosive stage presence, self-deprecating height jokes, and physicality, was a copy of what Williams had been doing for years before Hart's breakthrough. It was a fundamental charge. Williams wasn't merely stating that Hart had profited from the same kind of humor. He claimed that Hart had stolen his blueprint. Williams progressed from coded language to direct attacks by 2016. Kevin Hart was a Hollywood puppet, according to Katt Williams in 2016. His use of the word puppet during his conspiracy theory comedy tour in Atlanta was intentional, loaded, and deeply offensive to the Black comedy community. It suggested that Hart wasn't independent and that executives, the industry, and others working behind the scenes were in charge of him. Hart refrained from retaliating directly. Instead, fans interpreted his Instagram post about unity in the comedy industry that year as a subtle attack at Katt. Without mentioning Williams' name, Hart responded by portraying himself as a member of the elite and Williams as the outsider looking in. The caption of the photo, which showed Hart posing with Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock at the Oscars, said that true professionals stick together and support one another, and that the insecure ones will never understand that. It was computed. The cold merely exacerbated the situation. Katt, on the other hand, kind of took a different route, becoming a well-known comedian, but not a widespread celebrity, and his music was involved in legal troubles. Williams was dealing with arrests, litigation, and unpredictable public behavior that overshadowed his great comedic skill, while Hart was developing an empire and earning blockbuster paychecks. The main focus of their conflict was the difference in their professional paths. Williams continued to stumble, Hart continued to climb, and Williams continued to assert that the game was rigged. Kevin Hart and Katt Williams may have avoided one another's animosity. It might have continued to be a chilly battle of coded Instagram captions and subtle barbs. However, Williams made a choice in 2018 that completely upended the situation. He pursued Tiffany Haddish. In September 2018, Katt Williams made an appearance on V103's Frank and Wanda show. She questioned whether Tiffany Haddish had shown herself as a comic, saying she had not shown that she could perform for an hour. Williams questioned her stand-up skills and talent, asserting that her success stemmed from her appeal to white guys. He claimed to know additional women during a radio interview. Katt was left out of a comedy special in 2017. Tiffany Haddish wasn't just any comic. She co-starred with Kevin Hart. They were going to stop attending night school, and they had just completed a girls' trip together. Hart had been openly supporting Haddish as the comedy industry's next big star. Williams wasn't simply targeting Haddish when he pursued her. He was criticizing Hart's inner group, his influence, and his judgment. Kevin Hart made an appearance on Power 105 during the mid-press run of Night School, which starred Haddish. Once The Breakfast Club and gave a straightforward answer. The shot was yours. The person was you. You were supposed to be the main attraction. You failed to arrive at work. Hart said. It was a wrecking ball of words. Hart was no longer merely standing up for Haddish. He was taking the initiative. He was informing the world that Katt Williams had squandered his own chances and had no business criticizing the achievements of others. Hart didn't end there, though. He went farther. You often blame Hollywood for Katt Williams, which irritates me. The white man and Hollywood. This, and this. When do you accept accountability for your deeds? "You had the shot," Hart remarked. "You were the guy," Hart said, alluding to Williams' wasting of opportunities. "You didn't show up to work," followed by what may have been Hart's most scathing remark about Williams. He persisted, claiming that Williams continued to criticize Hollywood and the business. He opted for using narcotics instead of taking personal responsibility and then landing the cue. "Accept accountability for your decisions." Everyone felt the strike below the belt. During a press tour, Hart openly and unequivocally attributed Williams' career stall to substance misuse on national radio. In addition, Hart posed a mentorship challenge to Williams, asking if he had ever utilized his position to support others beneath him. Williams firmly denied this. Hart's first and only public outburst at Williams occurred during the Breakfast Club appearance, and he began to regret it years later. Hart discussed that experience in an out-of-context appearance on Charlemagne Thought God's podcast in 2024. "I believe I've mentioned Katt in public at least once," Hart clarified, citing the interview from the 2018 Breakfast Club. He said that some of Williams' remarks had an impact on Tiffany and that it was more of an act of support. In retrospect, Hart remarked, "I should never have spoken to him at all." However, the harm had already been done. The rivalry had grown from a business dispute to a very personal one as a result of the Tiffany Haddish affair. Neither of the two men would forget that they had extracted blood. January 2024 was the lit match that caused everything to catch fire, if 2018 was the petrol. Tensions erupted in the middle of 2024 when Williams appeared on Shannon Sharpe's YouTube program, Club Shay Shay, and spent over 3 hours analyzing Hart's career trajectory. This wasn't a casual comment made in a radio interview. This was not a stand-up joke that was coded. This was a calm, systematic, and receipt-filled nearly 3-hour point-by-point dissection of Kevin Hart's whole career. Everything changed after the interview. The comedian's spill was viewed by almost 86 million people. The nearly 3-hour film contains jokes, theories, and exaggerated facts. It became a cultural event rather than just becoming viral. Across the nation, people were quoting Katt Williams at work, at family meals, and in beauty salons and barbershops. And the main goal was Kevin Hart. Kevin was accused by Katt during the interview of accepting movie roles that had initially ended up on his desk. He claimed that over the course of 5 years, every film Kevin Hart acted in was one that had been offered to him initially, and that he had turned it down due to its content before accepting the parts. However, the industry plant label was the most damaging claim. According to Williams, nobody in Hollywood can recall ever attending a sold-out Kevin Hart performance, seeing a cue for him, or receiving a standing ovation at a comedy club. He claimed that when he arrived, he already had his deals. "Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA?" Williams then inquired. And during his first year in Los Angeles, he starred in his own film, Soul Plane, and had his own sitcom on network television. "No, we've never heard of that before." "What do you think a plant is, either because of that person or because of them?" That charge was damaging since it called into question not only Hart's musical ability, but also the legitimacy of his profession. Williams was informing the world that Kevin Hart didn't deserve his position and that influential people put him there for reasons unrelated to merit. Williams named a number of comedians and performers, including Kevin Hart, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, and Ricky Smiley, in the Club Shay Shay interview. However, Hart took the brunt of the heat. Williams later disclosed his motivation during the Vulture Festival hosted by New York Magazine. "I was attempting to carry out an unfinished task. I believed that when I put the algorithm in writing, I could demonstrate that I had solved it mathematically. I composed it with the intention of ruining the careers of the musicians I was discussing." Give that some thought. Williams didn't enter the interview by accident. It was his plan. He intended to end careers when he wrote it. That was the extent of the animosity. Hart's reaction was measured. Hart responded to Fox 5 in just 7 words. "The circus is not entertained by you. You observe it." At the same time, he used the occasion to release the trailer for his next Netflix movie, Lift, which turned Williams' viral attack into free publicity. Hart used ice, while Williams used fire, and the contrast between the calculated empire builder and the explosive outsider only increased the public's fascination with their rivalry. In response to Williams' accusation that he was an industry plant, Hart said, "Got to get that anger up out, champ." It's honestly sad, while promoting his Netflix movie Lift. Hart then elaborated on his stance in an interview with Wall Street Journal magazine. Hart remarked, "If that's what he fuels himself off, God bless him. It's just entertainment. Well done. I hope he gets everything he desires and needs. And from a distance, I'm here supporting him. My true energy is that. I truly do mean it. That's how content and safe I am with both my life and my career." It sounded elegant on the surface, but it had a sharp edge. Hart was acting strategically when he declined to address Williams' claims in depth. Williams was being portrayed by him as the resentful, envious, and reluctant person. And since the Club Sachet incident, Hart's public image has had a difficult year, according to the internet. Earlier that year, he abruptly closed his Hart House restaurants without making a public announcement. Rarely posted alongside his spouse, Hart. Additionally, he had not yet taken his performance overseas, even though was on tour for a large portion of 2024. The optics weren't good, regardless of whether had anything to do with Williams' interview. The story that Williams had revealed something was gaining momentum, and although Hart's empire remained financially stable, it was beginning to show signs of weakness in the public's perception of. That takes us back to May 10, 2026. The Forum for Kia. Kevin Hart's live roast on Netflix. Wearing a tilted black hat with gold details, a black bow tie, and a sparkling blazer, Katt Williams made her way to the podium. During the live Netflix broadcast, Kevin Hart sat ringside while Williams performed for 8 minutes. Williams didn't hold back. "I tried to tell y'all that Kevin Hart was a plant because I keep burying him. He keeps springing back the F up just like a plant." It was a brilliant reframe. He turned his own insult into a punchline while simultaneously reinforcing the exact same accusation he'd been making for years. He declared in response to the industry plant accusations. The puppet clarification followed, and William agreed. "I expressed some things that I would like to retract, and some of the things that I said were misinterpreted. The audience went crazy when I said that he was a Hollywood puppet, and I want to clarify that because it might not be what you believe. I meant that the head of Netflix literally has his full hand up Kevin's ass and can make him do whatever." Williams was playing chess on a platform meant for checkers, and he even made a Diddy allusion that left the audience gasping. Williams said that Kevin's attendance at Diddy parties did not imply that he had done anything unlawful. It was a retraction that did nothing. Williams mentioned the films he rejected, including Scary Movie 3, Night School, and Get Hard. The fact that he becomes quiet when you bring it up indicates that he did something incorrectly. The entire 8 minutes was a masterclass in weaponized comedy. Williams positioned himself as the comedian with integrity who refused to degrade black stereotypes, while Kevin Hart built his film career on precisely the roles Williams rejected because he was uncomfortable being ___. Williams made every claim he had ever made, including stolen roles, industry planting, and corporate puppeteering in the music industry, and he delivered it all in the guise of roast material so that it would be met with laughs rather than lawsuits. It was great. Kevin Hart sat there and accepted the brutality, but then something unexpected happened. Hart got up and made a noticeable movement while holding a microphone. "I can sit here and chuckle because I'm a fan first. You coming down here is quite the surprise, Katt. All right. I'm a fan first. I've been at odds with this man for years on years," Hart said to the audience. "It's quite the shock that you're coming out here. I can sit, though, Katt. I am able to observe you. First of all, I'm an effing fan, so I can chuckle. First of all, Katt, I'm a fan. In actual time, we have a chance. To put our effing fight behind us, this is live TV. I'm extending a peaceful olive branch to you. I'd like to be a brother. I'd like to be friends. I want to move on, Katt." In less than a minute, years of criticism, public jabs, and podcast diss tracks vanished as the two met on stage, held hands, and embraced while the audience went crazy. This is where things get interesting. Hart didn't hold back when it was his chance to fire back because the night wasn't quite finished. He added, "Katt said tonight that I took all his films that he turned down." Alright, let's unpack it. What the F are you telling me, Katt? You can't be in my effing movies. You're telling me that you declined the Jumanji 123 ride-along and Central Intelligence. Think like a man, 1-2. The upside of last night's me time, Borderlands, was the man from Toronto so you could make a cameo in Norbit. You think they want a fucking pimp in Jumanji? The audience erupted. Hart was at his best, taking a grievance and turning it into the most ridiculous humor. However, the moment that actually stunned everyone occurred moments later. "Everyone has said that I can't act tonight," Hart remarked. Kevin is unable to take action. "I want you to relive that moment when I shook Katt's hand, looked him in the eye, and said, 'I just want us to be friends.' It was some of the best effing acting I've ever done. I didn't mean a single word I uttered." Williams, F. Katt. Williams is overweight. The crowd went wild. It was the ideal rehearsal for a comedy. On live television, a man just extended an olive branch of peace, telling the world now that it was all a ruse. Naturally, you could see it as merely another joke in the context of a roast. A comedian performing comedic acts. However, that statement contained a great deal of ambiguity given the depth of their past, the stolen parts, the charges of being puppets, the drug comment, and the destruction of the club Shay Shay. Was that what he meant? Was Hart just acting like a comedian and turning the most sincere moment of the evening into another joke, or was the entire reconciliation staged? Towards the conclusion, Hart clarified the message. People shouldn't witness two black men fighting. "So, Katt, it's over," he remarked. "Going forward, Katt and I are friends." However, some fans didn't find it convincing. Some social media users were skeptical, as seen by a post that said, "Katt left that building hating him even more." Others noticed deeper undertones, as evidenced by a response that said, "The thing that caught my attention was Katt saying he's the only one in there with a soul." That man is somewhat knowledgeable. And that's precisely the tension that makes this whole situation so captivating because, in reality, nobody really knows if this rivalry has ended. The handshake, hug, and words were exchanged, but Hart later revealed that he didn't mean any of it. Williams has spent his entire career portraying himself as the truth teller, the man who refuses to play the Hollywood game, even if it means losing everything. Their feud represented greater tensions: authenticity versus commercialism, old-school grit versus mainstream polish. By doing the exact opposite, Hart has amassed an empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. By saying yes, by adapting, by playing the game better than anyone else in the room, by letting Williams roast him raw and then extending the hand. In any case, Hart showed a humility that his detractors seldom give him credit for. Williams, on the other hand, proved he could weaponize every grievance into comedy without completely burning the bridge. After saying what he had to say, he accepted the peace offering. Although Katt's opinions about Kevin allegedly taking roles or being an industry plant are probably unchanged, it appears that the two are now at peace, or at least they've decided to stop fighting in public, though only they know if that peace lasts behind closed doors. We do know that the video of Williams' whole set has got more than 25 million views on Just X. The performance and the onstage hug have been widely praised in the replies. It was dubbed legendary by fans. Williams, according to some, went light on him. He spoke everything that needed to be said and more, according to others. The irony that a roast, an event meant for insults, turned into a space for healing was highlighted by fans. But perhaps that's precisely why it was successful. Perhaps comedy, where every truth can be disguised as a joke and every peace offering can be camouflaged as a punchline, was the only way two guys with this much history and pride could ever share the same stage. "The beef between me and Katt is over," Hart declared as he wrapped up the evening. "In all seriousness, I'm glad that man came tonight. He appeared.